The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the sidewalk as I approached my friend Kevin's house. The familiar creak of the wrought iron gate echoed in the stillness of the late afternoon. I had promised Kevin I'd come over after school, but I hadn't expected to be there this early. I was eager to see him, but something about the quietness felt off. As I stepped onto the porch, I knocked lightly on the door. It swung open almost immediately, revealing the dimly lit hallway that led deeper into the house. I stepped inside, the scent of something sweet wafting through the air. It was a comforting aroma, reminiscent of baking cookies or cake, something my mother often did when she wanted to brighten the mood. "Kevin," I called out, but there was only silence in response. The house felt empty, though I knew his parents were usually home at this hour. I glanced around, taking in the familiar sights. The framed pictures of Kevin and his family lining the walls, the worn couch that creaked when you sat down, and the well-used gaming console perched precariously on a shelf. As I made my way to the kitchen, the sound of clinking dishes reached my ears. I followed the noise and peered around the corner. Kevin's older sister, Sarah, stood at the kitchen counter, her sleeves rolled up as she worked diligently. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and the concentration on her face was palpable. She was beautiful in a way that felt effortless, but today there was something different about her. "You're early. Good." Her voice was casual, but the way she turned to face me seemed rehearsed, as if she had been waiting for this moment. The air felt thick, almost charged, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. Hey, Sarah," I managed to say, trying to shake off the unease that settled in my stomach. "Is Kevin around?" She hesitated for a moment, her gaze lingering on me longer than usual. "Not yet. He's running some errands. But I could use some help here, if you don't mind." I shrugged, stepping closer to the counter. "Sure, what do you need?" She gestured toward a bowl filled with a sticky mixture that looked like it was meant for cookies. "Just mixing this up. I'm trying out a new recipe. Something for the bake sale tomorrow." I nodded, grabbing a nearby spatula. As I began to stir the mixture, I couldn't help but steal glances at Sarah. She seemed different, more mature perhaps. There was an intensity in her eyes that made me feel like I was in a movie, where the protagonist suddenly realizes the world around them is not what it seems. "Do you ever wonder what it's like to be someone else?" she asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the silence like a knife. I paused, looking up from the bowl. "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "You know, to live in a different world, where everything is perfect and nothing ever goes wrong." Her tone remained light, but the question hung heavy in the air. "Yeah, I guess," I replied cautiously. "But isn't that kind of boring?" She chuckled softly, but it felt forced. "Maybe, but sometimes I think it would be nice to escape this one." I frowned, unsure of how to respond. The kitchen felt stifling, and I could feel a prickling sensation at the back of my neck. I tried to shake off the feeling, but it lingered, like a shadow that wouldn't leave me alone. "Do you think you could handle it?" she continued, leaning against the counter. "Being someone else?" Before I could answer, the front door swung open, and Kevin walked in, his bag slung over his shoulder. "Hey guys, what's up?" He greeted us with his usual enthusiasm, his smile infectious. "Just making cookies," I said, trying to sound casual as I returned to mixing the dough. "Awesome. I can't wait to try them," he said, moving to stand next to Sarah. There was a brief moment of tension between them, and I sensed something unspoken passing between the siblings. Sarah's expression softened slightly, but it was only for a second before she masked it beneath her usual demeanor. "Did you get the stuff I asked for?" Sarah asked, her tone shifting back to business. "Yeah, I grabbed everything on the list," he replied, pulling out a few grocery bags filled with ingredients. "Did you need my help with anything?" "No, I've got it. Just keep me company," she said, her voice brightening. but I could still feel the weight of her earlier words lingering in the air. As the three of us transitioned into casual chatter about school and video games, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was simmering beneath the surface. Sarah moved with an ease that felt choreographed, as if she was balancing on a tightrope, and I found myself watching her closely. After a while, she took a step back from the counter, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "I'm going to take a quick break. Kevin, can you keep an eye on the cookies?" "Sure, I got it," he said, nodding enthusiastically. Sarah left the kitchen, her footsteps echoing down the hallway. I turned to Kevin, who had already started to set up for a game on the console. "Do you ever feel like Sarah is different?" I asked, trying to gauge his reaction. He looked up, brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "She's just being Sarah. You know how she is with her baking and stuff." "Yeah, but I don't know. It just feels like there's something going on with her. Like she's—" I searched for the right word. "Distant." Kevin shrugged. "She's been stressed lately, I guess. School, life, all that. It happens. Don't take it personally." I nodded, but the nagging feeling didn't go away. It was as if Sarah was hiding something, some part of herself that she was afraid to show, and I felt like I was just scratching the surface. The minutes passed, and we settled into our game, but my mind kept drifting back to Sarah. When she returned, she was carrying a tray of freshly baked cookies, the golden brown edges glistening with a sugary sheen. "Here they are, just out of the oven," she announced, placing the tray on the counter. "Wow, they look amazing," Kevin exclaimed, grabbing one and taking a big bite. "These are the best, Sarah." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Thanks. I'm glad you like them." As we munched on the cookies, the conversation shifted to lighter topics: movies, music, and plans for the weekend. But I couldn't shake the sense that Sarah was still holding something back. After a while, she slipped back into the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of water. I caught her reflection in the window, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of something, fear, maybe, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "Hey Sarah, are you okay?" I asked, my voice breaking through the chatter. She turned, her expression momentarily surprised before the mask fell back into place. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little tired. That's all." "You sure? You seem off." Her gaze hardened for a moment, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "I'm fine, really. Just busy with everything." She glanced at Kevin, who was still engrossed in the game, oblivious to the tension. "Okay, if you say so," I said, choosing my words carefully. I didn't want to push her too hard, but something about her tone made me uneasy. "Let's focus on the game," she said, her voice lightening again. "You're about to lose, right?" We returned to our playful banter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was brewing beneath the surface. The air felt thick with unspoken words and hidden emotions. As night began to fall, Kevin's parents returned home, their voices echoing through the house. They greeted us warmly, but I could see the flicker of concern in their eyes as they glanced at Sarah. It was subtle, but it was there, a shared understanding of something we didn't fully grasp. After dinner, we all settled in the living room, the television flickering with the latest episode of a show we all loved. But even amid the laughter and excitement, I felt a growing disquiet. Sarah sat on the edge of the couch, her fingers nervously tapping against her knee. "Do you think we could watch something else?" she asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the laughter. "Sure. What do you want to see?" Kevin asked, his brow furrowing in confusion. "I don't know. Something different. Something real," she said, and there was a weight to her words that caused a hush to fall over the room. "Real?" I echoed, intrigued. "Yeah, something that makes you think. Not just mindless entertainment," she replied, her eyes flickering with intensity. "Okay, how about a documentary?" Kevin suggested, but I could see the hint of discomfort in his posture. Sarah nodded, as if that was what she had been waiting for. We found a documentary about the struggles of artists in the modern world, and as the film played, I noticed Sarah leaning forward, engrossed in the stories unfolding on the screen. But as the hour stretched on, I saw her expression darken. The weight of the film seemed to settle over her, and I could sense a heaviness in the air. "Do you think they ever find peace?" she asked quietly, her eyes still glued to the screen. "Or is it just a constant battle? Who knows?" I replied, feeling the need to reassure her. "Life is messy, but we keep trying, right?" She turned to me, her gaze piercing. "Do we? Or do we just pretend?" I didn't have an answer, and the silence that followed felt deafening. Just then, a loud crash came from the kitchen, breaking the tension. Kevin jumped up, his face pale. "What was that?" "Probably just something falling," Sarah said, but her voice was tight. "I'll check it out," I volunteered, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that had settled in my stomach. I made my way to the kitchen, the shadows dancing on the walls as I approached. My heart raced with each step. As I entered, I found the floor littered with broken glass and what looked like a shattered plate. I knelt down, carefully picking up the pieces when I heard footsteps behind me. Sarah appeared in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "What happened?" she asked, her voice low. "I think something fell. Are you okay?" I asked, looking up at her. She nodded, but the tension in her jaw told a different story. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just clumsy, I guess." The air felt electric, and I could sense that whatever had been brewing beneath the surface was about to erupt. "Sarah, what's really going on?" I pressed, searching her eyes for answers. For a moment, she seemed to hesitate, her facade cracking. "It's just, everything feels overwhelming sometimes. I don't know how to deal with it. I want to escape, but I don't know how." My heart ached for her. "You don't have to do it alone. We're here for you." She stared at me, and I could see the flickers of vulnerability beneath her tough exterior. "I know, but it's hard to explain. I feel like I'm drowning sometimes, and I can't find my way back to the surface." I reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you think, Sarah. You just have to let us help you." The moment felt charged, as if the world around us had fallen away. But just as quickly, she pulled back, her expression shifting back to that practiced smile. "Thanks, but I'll be fine. Really." I nodded, though something told me she wasn't being entirely honest. The weight of her words hung in the air between us, and I felt a sense of urgency to be there for her, to help her find her way back to the surface. As I turned to clean up the mess, she stepped back into the hallway, her figure disappearing into the shadows. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just glimpsed a part of her that she kept hidden from everyone else. When I returned to the living room, Kevin was still absorbed in the documentary. The atmosphere felt different now, charged with an unspoken understanding. As the credits rolled, Kevin turned to me, his brow furrowed. "What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just a little accident in the kitchen," I replied, forcing a smile. "Nothing to worry about." But as I glanced at Sarah, who stood by the window, staring out into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. There was so much more beneath the surface, and I was determined to help her find her way through it, no matter what it took. The night wore on, but the air remained thick with unspoken words and hidden fears. I knew things were about to change, and as I looked at Sarah, I felt both terrified and exhilarated by the possibilities that lay ahead, both for her and for me. The journey might not be easy, but together we could navigate the darkness, one step at a time.